Hello everyone and happy hump day. It's Wednesday evening and we are back with Planet Zoo and Yosemite Valley Zoo. Today's episode is, and you guys do know the drill by now, today's episode is again about an animal. So my promise was every second episode is about an animal. So in today's episode, without further kind of hiding or spoiling or whatever, we are going back in and this will be about a bison, an American bison habitat. And the idea about this habitat is mainly down to some of the recent comments of the last episode. So first of all, sorry, I won't go too much into the comments today, which is mainly because I'm recording again very late night, and I need to get this done. And I really promise for the Saturday episode I will go back to most of the comments. One of the biggest issues was that to the time I was doing this in the live stream, I haven't had the chance to read through all the comments because I uploaded the episode on Monday, and so it kind of overlapped a little bit and I couldn't implement the feedback, so there's no reason to kind of read it all out now whilst I couldn't really implement it. However, and that's mainly one of the most important things, while you see me struggling quite heavily with the path in the background, there's this one thing I wanted to get in, and there was one comment that maybe I could do some habitats that somehow look like as if they wouldn't really belong to the zoo, so kind of free roaming animals around the zoo. And I found this quite interesting because that's kind of something I think that would be for Yosemite Valley National Park area, would be somehow very useful and somehow very interesting. And I felt that this idea could make it into this episode. And in the end, I actually went in and made the episode exactly like this. This bison habitat over here, if you will, is more like a reservat, if this is even an English word. Like it's actually something that is outside of the zoo, so it's not really part of the zoo. It's the left-hand side, and it looks like something that is like a plane that is next to the zoo and connected to the outer wilderness. This is something I found very interesting, and I went with, and I can only thank you guys for all these lovely and amazing ideas. You guys really make the channel work at the moment, and please continue putting all your feedback down in the comments. Create those creative stories. I will read out so many on Saturday again, because there was just so much, and I was blown away by it, and I could make episodes alone now reading out your comments, and that's just purely amazing. And I must also add that this theme I chose appears to be not only challenging, which is great, but also appears to be very filled with lovely ideas and stuff. So I made a huge collection of inspiration images and put them to my Discord, and I asked you guys also to jump in and do the same. Just give me some of your main ideas and kind of the stuff you want to have. And it would be super awesome if you guys go into my Discord and just keep posting in images, reference images from Yosemite National Park, but also Yellowstone National Park. I think, this adds a little bit of variation. I feel like this can be done. I mean, I said I based this off Yosemite Park, but I don't want to limit me too much only to this, just to get a bit of an inspiration from the area around. Talking of inspiration, I was getting a lot of inspiration by the fencing here, because I struggled a little bit with getting the water in, and what I ended up doing, as you can see, I was putting in the fence, and all of a sudden it worked. So it was pretty cool. You could go so much closer to the pathway, and then all of a sudden it worked also with deleting the fence again. So I don't know what exactly it is. It feels almost like the natural barrier is not working as well as the normal barrier, so it always is a good thing to have the normal barrier work. As you can see, I was putting then finally some American bisons in, or bisons. And again, I have no idea about the pronunciation. People also said to me that my pronunciation of duplicate is nice, or duplicate. Like, I think it's duplicate, or duplicate, whatever. There are some English words that don't make any sense to me, and when I talk to Native American or native English-speaking people, they always reply the same, that this English language is not logic at certain points. And I mean, same about German though, but some of the words are really hard to pronounce when you don't really know it. It's almost like you can't pronounce them right just from your guessing, I guess, and from reading them, because they are not pronounced the way you would read them, and this somehow drives me nuts. But anyways, I feel like over the time I will get better, and I really want to encourage you guys and reinforce you to really, please put it in the comments down below if you find some of the words I keep pronouncing wrong. You guys can definitely tell me how it is correctly done, and I will try to improve myself in the future, because I keep referring to Sylph, but the thing is, Sylph always mentioned this in his videos, and it holds on to be absolutely true. If there is no criticism at all, I can't improve. And no matter to my buildings or to my language use or to my audio quality, as Kane, for example, last episode mentioned again that my plop noises are pretty bad, which I do agree, they were. It's a little bit of a pity, because I have this new microphone and I have a pop filter, but it works a little bit different from the other one, from the old one. And today's episode is a bit more on a different side. I decreased the gain on the microphone. I increased the computer generated gain, if you will, so I increased the kind of volume input, and I also changed a bit of the distance to my mouth. So these kind of things I keep on doing, so I will see if it's better or not. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to record it twice, so if this first recording is going wrong, I have to either move this episode or I will use it if it's not too bad. So these two options are just left for me. Anyways, you can see at the and I feel like we need to talk more about this episode, because also this is some of the feedback you guys gave me. I'm just testing a few things here in the background, and you can see it just looks so funny when the Bison's in the sped up version just running over there. I wanted to use this natural border of this river to make sure that the Bisons will not escape. So yeah, it's somehow not realistic though, because in real they could escape, obviously, but I felt it to be a cool idea to make this river really keep being open, or let's make sure that this remains an open river, by just slopping in the rocks. And I really do hope that I do have to change this river in the future again, when Frontier finally does change the hitboxes of the rocks, because the rock hitboxes, like in this particular situation, it was the first time I could use them to my advantage by just using the insanely big hitbox around them. And by hitbox, but for those people who are always wondering, I mean the area around the rock that the animals are not able to traverse. So there's a certain kind of blocked area that the rock creates. So every rock you put down for animals that are not able to climb rocks is kind of creating somewhat of a radius within this area where the animal cannot go along. That means if you position the rocks in a clever way, as I've done in the river, the animals are not able to swim through it. Even though it seems to be very open and space enough for them to go through, the game just doesn't recognize it as enough space for them to traverse, which is my advantage over here, because then the whole thing looks supernatural and the Bisons just do not escape. So it's kind of a win-win situation in this kind of sense, but I really do hope that this win-win situation in the future has to be changed in a way if the hitboxes become a little bit smaller. Anyways, you can see there's a little bit of a gap here in the recording, hence I forgot to press record again in the stream. But yeah, we are now focusing on making the habitat really look nice. And now people also complained that I didn't do enough research in advance of an episode, which, I don't want to say no to this in particular, because there's always more potential of doing research, and so I did for this episode. And I checked where the Bisons actually do live in the Yosemite and Yellowstone National Park. I browsed through a lot of images, and now to avoid some criticism right at the get-go, because you will definitely, for those of you being experts, they will see it quite easily now. So Bisons do live usually on big plains of grassland with just very lush nature in there, just very subtle bushes and some flower beds, but that's about it. So it's nothing like foresty. However, in the national park over there, in Yosemite National Park and also Yellowstone, no matter which images I was browsing, there are also huge forests around these bigger grass plains. Now, as I don't want to use this whole zoo as one big grass plain, I wanted to create something that is somehow using the vibe of it. and I am using basically the surroundings of a forest and combine them with a little bit of a grass plain. In the next episode, like let's say before the next episode, I will move a little bit of the stuff in this habitat so that the trees are a bit more towards the actual size of the habitat and the grass plain becomes a bit bigger. So in this episode I'm using too many trees also to the center of it, but I really wanted to create this habitat in a way that it has this huge river in the middle, because I just love how they're just swimming. These animals just, I mean, usually they don't swim that much. It's not like that they love swimming at all, but they just, well, they just traverse the river if they need to. And if you see some restarting over here, it's because the X key didn't work and I needed to change some things here and there. But yeah, so mainly I was pretty happy with how the habitat turned out, and I was deciding to go on and just change the area towards this habitat a little bit. So we are working in the next couple of episodes, we are working on this area over here. We will create also another habitat. I'm not yet sure which animal it will be, but on Saturday's episode, the main focus will be on facilities and on buildings again, as this is kind of the thing I just promised you guys to do. One episode focusing on animal habitats and one episode focusing more on building and making the actual gaps between habitats nicer. However, if I get it done, it's not a promise, I will try, but I have no idea if I will succeed. If I get it done, I will maybe have another episode on Sunday focusing on an animal again. Reason being is I want to I want to just switch the episode so that there is an episode on the weekend which is focusing on the animal, and there's one within the week which is focusing on building. I have the feeling that this is the better approach. You know, it's just down to the fact that I feel like people are a little bit, just ever so slightly more interested into animals, and the weekend is the more popular time to watch it, and so I felt like this might make sense. Also, let me just spoil you, I don't have any nice cinematics in the end of animals. I have a few nice screenshots that I have to say, but I don't have animations and cinematics, which is because I'm still working on this area and I couldn't get any nice areas which I wanted to film. So next episode on Saturday you will get some nice and wonderful ones. Also, a bit of information here, next week I'm on a work trip with my agency to London, and I won't be there most of the time for the week, so I hope that I will be able to create some material in advance. Again, something I can't promise, so maybe I will have to skip the episode on Sunday to have something within the week, or maybe we're just continuing with the franchise mode because that's something easier for me to do. Also, we have I don't even know why, but we already have the Christmas party from work on Friday. Maybe because of all the work trips we have in November and December, they just figured that this might be a clever idea to have it earlier on. I don't know if that makes any sense, but as kind of a reason for it. But 15th of November having Christmas party feels awfully early, but I just put on my Discord my Christmas hat on as well, and I felt like it's okay. And anyways, working in advertisement, we are already done with the Christmas business. Anyways, we are already moving towards Eastern, which is so weird to talk about, but that's the business. I mean, you get used to it after a few years. It's kind of funny. You're sitting there in the room whilst it's 30-40 degrees in the summertime, Celsius, by the way, for the American people wondering. It's not that cold. It's actually pretty warm. But yeah, having those hot temperatures, you're sitting there in the room and creating Christmas assets. It's pretty weird, but again, after a few years, you're getting used to it. Now, getting used to it means also getting used to what you see in the background is not a good thing. You still should be surprised and not get used to it too much. I'm breaking the mood here again by just changing the waterfall. I have to say these river rapids particle effects are awesome. The only thing I really don't like is that we still do have these little nubs there. It's kind of having, I mean, yes, the effect has to come out somewhere, and I did get it in Planet Coaster, because in a theme park most of the effects are actually made by machines, but this is more like an effect we got for nature, right? It's nothing that kind of the zoo creates. The zoo would use this river over here. Oh, well, the zoo potentially creates an artificial river, which is fine, but then again, the rapids are kind of created by the river layout itself and how it's flowing and floating, and I'm flowing actually, not floating, but how it's flowing. So there is no machinery at that position needed. So this is why I would love to at least have those pieces without actually this little nub there, because I feel like you can have the nub to see basically where you put the effect. I mean, yes, in terms of a kind of a little help, that is totally cool, but in terms of actual visual appearance, I really would love if this piece could, maybe go on holidays first. I don't want to see it again, like it can stay in holidays then. It's one of those little things. I feel like you can hide them away. Yes, I know, but why do I need to? Like, you know what I mean? It would be awesome to just have these things plain effects. And again, in Planet Coaster I got it. It totally makes sense to me, but here it's just a nature effect. So I don't know. Maybe you could just give me the option to disable it or kind of make it invisible or whatever. Anyways, this is a building over here I don't want to make invisible. It's like a little lodge building, very, very small. And yeah, me being genius as I am, I even did hide the solar panel under a roof, which was potentially not my most genius idea I ever had. So I just don't know why I did that. But I wanted to create this little shop over here as another little focus point to the people and for the people to go here and just spend some time near the bison habitat and chill down, get some food, get some drinks, also get a conservation package from the information kiosk, which is also in here, I guess. Or is it just food? I'm not even, no, it's just food. So is it though? No, it's actually AUNA. It's a souvenir shop and some info, I guess. I'm not even sure which kind of shops I put in here. Now, anyways, I just wanted to have some shops so that they I don't even know what I did here. So that the area over here has some kind of another draw point for the people. And then again, yes, a little bit of realism has to be everywhere. I put some plugs in and kind of created a cable connection. Put some fencings here and there, and you can see towards the end of this episode, again, as always, we get a lot of stuff done and the area comes together. I don't know, it feels like this is almost my way of working by the time. So just a very long beginning of layouting the whole area, but towards the end it all starts to come together. And I have to say, yeah, it's sped up a bit quicker than usually, which I do when I have the footage from my live streams. By the way, I just used those stones over here, the rocks, to create a little bit of a somewhat of a more interesting look to the gravel path. I feel like it works very well together with the gravel. It totally blends in a nice way, because some of the rocks have such a flat texture that you can just move them in ever so slightly. And yeah, now getting into another little criticism, in Planet Coaster we had some curbs, as they were called, or barriers, which were basically elements in the game that made you or gave you a tool where you could basically control the gas flow. So once you put down a barrier, people would not go that way. So you could create some kind of artificial invisible barriers so that the guests, for example, don't run through some of your scenery pieces. So animals, for example, don't have that issue. They have a collision with the scenery items, so guests don't. That means in Planet Coaster it was not that big of a deal, but you could change that by simply using those barriers and curbs within, for example, a pillar. Just, move that curb into the pillar, and people would not go into the pillar because they recognized the barrier as a collision object, which was mainly done to, it almost is like to help Frontier to not have too much work with it. So we were totally happy with those few pieces to use them, and I just would love to have them again to make sure that people don't run into my fences and into my trees. That's all. Anyways, that's all is a good point, because we are at the end of this episode. I really do hope you guys enjoy. Let me know in the comments, as always, all your feedback. Do you like the habitat? Do you like the idea of having it more like a conservation area rather than a actual habitat of the zoo? And what kind of animal do you want to see next in this project? So until then, have a wonderful hump day, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Have a good day, guys, and bye bye. Alrighty guys, thank you for watching this video, I really do appreciate that. As always, make sure to check out also my social media channels. You can find me everywhere under @Rennkamel. Also big thanks to the crew, you can see it on the left hand side right now. And as always, if you want to see more, you click that card on the top right. And if you want to stick around because you like the stuff you just saw, whatever, you know what I mean, just click the sub button, which is to the bottom right of the screen right now. But everything else I can say is have a great time and see you next time. Bye guys.